In order to build the structure was not only cozy, but also durable enough, its construction is necessary to take into account various technological nuances, one of which is the depth of soil freezing. Otherwise, the violation of construction technologies can lead to a large number of problems, the result of which may be the demolition of low-quality buildings. Since the basis of any construction is a reliable foundation, then it is the load of absolutely all structural elements of the building. And the mistakes made at its laying can lead to destruction of the house, already in the very near future. After a time, the foundation can sink, resulting in the walls with a high probability of cracks. In order to avoid this, it is necessary to take into account the depth of soil freezing. The soil is rocks, soils, man-made organization, which is a complex geological macrosystem, which is subject to ongoing research. Soil freezing is called the transition of the soil from thawed to frozen. The soil having a negative or zero temperature mark is called frozen soil. Sometimes there are areas where even in the spring there is no thawing of the soil. These are so-called permafrost soils. The main causes of soil freezing are humidity and lowering the ambient temperature. The volume of water during freezing increases by about 10%, which, accordingly, leads to the lifting of soils. The amount of ice formed and the degree of soil elevation depends on the temperature regime and the level of soil freezing. In other words, in the cold period of time the earth is trying as much as possible to displace the foundation of the building. In the spring there are reverse actions. When the ice and snow begin to melt, the soil tries to pull the foundation as deep as possible inside. The freezing of the earth in the autumn-winter period is the seasonal freezing of the soil. Every year the topsoil freezes and thaws. Seasonal soil freezing occurs almost throughout the territory of the former USSR. The depth of soil freezing is the maximum depth at which the soil usually freezes in the winter. Normative depth of soil freezing is the depth, which is the average of the most record indicators of annual, seasonal, soil freezing in open and not snow-covered areas. Typically, the calculations of the normative depth of soil freezing are based on observations of indicators of not less than 10 years of the freezing of the earth in a certain area. Normative depth of soil freezing is often much different from the real depth. This is due to the fact that the normative data of soil freezing are calculated in the absence of snow on the ground, and as a consequence, low soil moisture. Snow with ice is not only a good source of moisture, but also an excellent source of thermal insulation. Conclusion: the more snow cover on the territory, the lower the depth of soil freezing. Therefore, during the construction of residential premises heated in winter, the depth of soil freezing will be significantly reduced. And, on the contrary, at construction of a construction in which installation of heating devices is not planned, depth of freezing of soil will increase. It follows that in the construction of a heated room, the level of real soil freezing is less than the normative percentage of 20 to 30. The most common mistake is the complete conviction of some builders that the deeper the foundation, the more stable will be the structure. This opinion is fundamentally wrong. It should not be allowed to limit the depth of soil freezing was much higher than the ground level of the foundation, because the overvoltage capacity in these areas with high frost can be destructive to the house. Another fact of deformation of the foundation is frost heaving, that is, raising, the volume of soil at the time of its freezing. The higher the level of moisture in the ground, the stronger its volume increases during freezing. To avoid the negative consequences associated with heaving, lifting, of soils, experts recommend pouring the foundation slightly below the seasonal level of soil freezing. To do this, before you start building a house on heaving soil, you need to know the exact data on the freezing of the soil of the area. Before the construction of a capital dwelling house, it is necessary to take into account all internal and external natural factors, one of which is the seasonal freezing of the soil on the built-up area.